Are we freer than before? Take a second. Let me reiterate. Are we freer than before? This is a question that feels modern, maybe even indulgent, yet it's one of the oldest questions we ask ourselves in history. And when we attempt to answer it, things get complicated fast. Let's take something concrete, law. In today's society, we're governed by thousands of pages of legislation. We have laws for commerce, for our foods and beverages, for our education, our identity, and even our speech. We have entire libraries of rules. Yet, in ancient times, things were much simpler. In fact, one of the oldest legal historical documents in history, the Code of Namu, first written in 2100 BCE in Sumer, or modern-day Iraq, only had a few dozen laws. Things like, if one man punches another man's eye out, he must repay half a chest of silver as compensation. Simple, brutal, and clear. Whereas today, you might get fined, sued, investigated, appealed, trialed, convicted, or maybe even prosecuted. By comparison, it almost feels as if we've complicated freedom. We have went from don't bonk someone on the head to entire PhD programs in jurisprudence. Yet, despite having so much more laws, were we also more free? Because in ancient civilizations, people didn't have freedom. Slavery was common, women were property, and dissent was fatal. People were left without a choice, only inherited roles, divine kingship, and fear. And this leads to something profound. Maybe laws and rules don't limit our freedom. In fact, well-crafted laws protect our freedom. They guard us from each other and from ourselves. So then, what does limit freedom? If we take a look at history, the most obvious answer is external oppression. Think colonialisms, dictatorships, segregation, caste systems. These weren't just violations of liberty. They were its opposite. People weren't able to think, feel, act, speak, worship, or even dream without fear. Let's take apartheid South Africa as an example. The system was explicitly designed to divide, dehumanize, and control. And when such legal frameworks are in place to strip us of our freedom, then our freedom exists not in its text, but rather in its absence. So, in this sense, yeah, we are freer than we are before, because external oppression has declined. Most of us live under democratic rule today, where we have access to healthcare and education. And most importantly, we're able to speak out against authorities without being crushed. That's real, meaningful progress. Yet, despite these external chains being broken, there are still social and internal chains that remain. You know, when you chew food too loudly at a relative's house, or when you wear clothes that are too colorful, and people give you that stare like. And these are invisible walls that regulate our actions just as powerfully as legislation once did. And in this modern day and context, we can ask ourselves, we are allowed to be different, but will we be shunned or accepted? We're allowed to speak out, but will we be listened or canceled? And we're allowed to have dreams, but will we be supported or laughed at? If you think of it this way, your freedom has never been what just the state has allowed. In fact, it's rather about what society permits. In fact, sometimes it's even about what you yourself think is possible. And in this sense, your freedom is never in a vacuum. It is always relational. It's always in relation to someone else's opinion, someone else's power, what they do, and the stories they tell about who you are and who you should be. And this leads us to something else, one of the most subtle forms of unfreedom we have ever faced. Because this isn't a system that overtly punishes us. In fact, it guides us, secretly, silently, and elegantly. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the world of algorithms. Algorithms learn what you love, who you talk to, what you fear, and they feed you more of it, putting you on an infinite treadmill with no end, gently leading you down to a path until you realize that I haven't chosen this path at all. And this isn't coercion. This is something trickier. It's curated choice, the illusion of freedom. And this tells us that maybe in this day and age, freedom isn't about having more choices. It's about understanding those driving forces behind your choices. And this leads us to the final frontier of our question. Because, yes, we're more free than when ancient kings wrote on stone tablets, more free when which god you worship determined the limits of your life. Yet, freedom in the 21st century doesn't just need defending, it needs defining. Because if we don't take the initiative to define what freedom means to us, someone or something else will. It's about asking yourself these questions every single day. Am I acting out of programming or principle, out of habits or intention, and out of courage or fear? Because real freedom, when presented to you, it isn't just the right to be left alone. It is the chance and opportunity to build something better. So to reiterate once more, I would like to extend the question to you. What does freedom mean to you? And do you think that we are freer than before? Thank you.